take us back to that SUU game and what happened.
You know, it was a freak thing. First play of the game, Morgan Grimm got the ball in the post and went to make a post move. And I just spun around my guy to get position for a rebound. And when I planted, the guy that was guarding me kind of bumped me a little bit. And when he bumped me, you know, I felt something across the top of my foot rip. And I didn't really think a lot of it. I thought maybe I sprained my foot a little bit. And it started to burn and whatnot. But I kept playing because I didn't want to come out. And I went down the floor, up and down the floor once or twice. And I was just playing through it. I mean, it hurt, but, you know, I'd had stuff like that all the time. And then I got a rebound and I came down, and everyone thinks I landed on someone's foot, but I didn't. I got a rebound, I came down clean, and when I landed and turned to outlet the ball, I went to pivot. And when I went to pivot, I heard a pop, I felt a pop, and you know, I kind of hit the floor. And so it was one of those things that I'd never had anything like that before, and when it happened, you know, I didn't know what to expect the first time, you know, going through something like that. But you know, it was a painful thing, and I thought I'd broken a bone in my foot. You know, because everyone around me heard it pop, and everyone kind of looked at me like, what was that? And you know, obviously as tests and things went on, we found more about it. But it didn't happen because I landed on someone's foot. Everyone thinks that, but I just stepped and turned, and it gave out. I mean, it's been a long, frustrating process. Originally, when the injury took place, they told me that it was a midfoot sprain and that I'd be back in 2 to 3 weeks. And so my goal was to be back for the Wichita State game, which was, you know, I don't know, 15 days or so in. And I started progressing towards that, and then after the Denver game that we lost at home, Doc Lyons called me in and said, I want to look at your foot. And he started looking at it, and up until that point, I'd been staying in shape. I was riding a bike, I was doing all those things, and he basically looked at me, and I said, I'm going to play next week, and he said, no, you're not. And I mean, we kind of went back and forth for a minute. He said, do you realize what you have? And I said, no, I have a midfoot sprain. And from there, I did an MRI the next day. They saw that I had a torn ligament, so then it went from 3 weeks to 3 months, and they said, you know, that ligament will heal if you stay off it and whatever. And 3 months later, I went in and I was doing rehab and stuff, and it had started to swell a little bit. And they looked at it and they talked to me and said, hey, we need to have Doc look at it again. So they called me back in that day. By that point, I was off crutches. I was in a normal walking shoe. I wasn't even in a full boot. And Doc told me, he said, you got to get back into a full boot and on crutches again and see how this heals. And I got frustrated. You know, I kind of, you know, I felt bad, but I just said, look, you know, I want to go to someone that this is all they do, you know, that can kind of tell me, you know, a second opinion of what's going on. And so they sent me down to Salt Lake to the Tosh specialty, foot and ankle doctors, and they did some x-rays, and what they found was that over those 3 months, my bones in my foot have started to move apart. Basically, my midfoot started to kind of fall apart because that ligament held it together, and it didn't heal right. And so they went in last week and they fused it completely. So my midfoot joint's all one big piece now and all locked up. And you know, when I met with the specialty doctor, and he kind of looked at me and he said, what are your plans for the future? I knew that wasn't a good question that I wanted to hear. And you know, quite honestly, it was a hard thing to go through. You know, I sat there, and you know, thankfully my mom was with me, and he told me, you probably won't play competitive basketball again. And that was a hard thing to swallow. And I remember sitting in the room, and honestly, like, he talked for 20 minutes after that, and I didn't hear a word he said, you know. And I went home, and like, I'll be honest, like, I was emotional. I cried. I was frustrated. You know, I told my wife, and she lost it, and it was a really hard thing for her for that week. And it's just one of those things that it's hard to swallow. You know, you work your whole life to have a senior year and to finally be the guy that can step up and can play, and then to have something like this happen. You know, it's been a really hard thing, but I've been very blessed as far as family and close friends and people in the community that have been really supportive. And you know, I've definitely felt the love from people around here. And so it's still frustrating. You know, I wake up in the morning a little frustrated at times, but that's how life happens sometimes, and you got to figure it out.
What would you like to say to Aggie fans?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just grateful. I really am. You know, this isn't how I wanted things to end. You know, I never envisioned senior night walking out on the floor in crutches and in the cast and having to get helped out there with my wife and whatever. But you know, the fans have always been incredible. They've always been so good to me. They've always been supportive. You know, I went through my ups and downs as a player as I tried to improve, and they were always behind me. And you know, I'm just grateful to them. You know, I have a lot of people in this valley that I love now. I really do. I feel like they're family, and I do anything for them, and I feel like they do anything for me. And there's just not a lot of places in the country I feel like you can have that as a player, you know, where fans really do become family, because you can tell they care not only about basketball, but about you in life and about you being successful. And so I really just am grateful to the people that have helped me throughout the last 3 or 4 years and have cheered me on, you know, through everything I've been through.
Future plans?
It's changed. I mean, it's changed a lot. You know, I had plans. I had plans as far as soon as I was graduating in May, you know, when my foot was still healthy, I had plans, and that changed. And then When they told me I was going to be able to come back and redshirt next year and play again, then I decided to come back to grad school, and then that changed. And now, to be honest, I'm in a position where I don't know. I got to find a job. I got to join the real world. Unfortunately, I got to figure things out that way. So, in the next, few weeks, I need to make a decision as far as a career goes, or at least, down that path. And I've met with quite a few guys that I've been talking to, but still don't have any idea where I'm going to end up or what I'm going to be doing.